Hi, I'm Hillary Walsh. I'm an immigration attorney in Phoenix, Arizona. I practice all over the United States, but my primary base is in Phoenix. It is not even 9 o'clock here in the morning, and I'm excited to brush off some of my makeup here and update you about some really huge victories that we've had in the past 24 hours for asylum seekers in the United States. So a lot of people are always really confused about how the asylum process works. So first I'm going to describe how the asylum process works, and I hope that will help you understand why we're so excited about these victories, and also just to other practitioners who are watching, specifically here in Arizona. I know a lot of immigration lawyers have been reaching out to me because I've kind of taken this as a personal issue of how we can better represent asylum seekers here in the detained courts in Arizona. Okay, so I can give you some practice pointers for how we're winning. So first, how does the asylum process work? It can work in two ways. I'll touch on two ways that they're the most common. First, someone comes to the border, either at JFK Airport or in Miami. They basically arrive at the port of entry and they get to the place where they're asking, show me your passport. And they walk up to the gate and they say, I'm here to seek asylum. Okay, and that can be your way of seeking asylum. And then they're taken to a secondary inspection, and basically the process starts there. Alternatively, what we see a lot in Arizona is people come to the border. They either go to a port of entry, like in Nogales, Arizona, and ask to be admitted into the United States, or alternatively, a lot of people hop the border. Why do a lot of people hop the border and cross without permission? It's because of a lot of reasons. I would say the least controversial being that, the reality is, people have been through a lot already, and they're just wanting to get into the United States because they're here to seek protection, okay? And when you go to the port of entry, it's very, very common for people to know that they'll be handcuffed and placed in what roughly in Spanish translates to ICE rooms. And that's not ice like Immigration's customs enforcement. It's like ice. It's freaking freezing cold, and people get very, very sick. And they're just kept in these cages that are freezing cold, with offering them very little blankets or anything like that. So I'm going to skip over, if you have a problem with people who are seeking asylum, like fleeing persecution in their home country, and they're entering the United States without knocking at the door and asking to come in first, then this is not going to be a video for you. You can just go ahead and move on. That said, when that happens, because we have drones that are flying up and down the US border right now that have heat-seeking technology, like infrared, I guess is kind of how you should describe it, you can see where a warm body is. Within minutes of people hopping the border, unlawfully entering, however you want to characterize it, people are caught. They're apprehended by Customs and Border Enforcement, okay? Border Patrol, whatever, CBP. What happens next? Next, they're asked a few questions specific to why are you here? Do you have permission to be here? And if they don't, then they're asked fear-based questions. Are you afraid of being removed to your country, and why? Okay, and then from there, they're put in a detention center, which is I'm outside of what's a prison. Let me see if I can turn this around so you can see. It's a detention center. Over here is staff parking. And, this is Florence Immigration Detention Center and also the court, okay? So you can see a little bit of the barbed wire, but you go farther back and it is it is no different than any other prison that I've been in, okay? Federal prison where people are convicted of really gnarly crimes. That's where people are put in. And if they're then interviewed on the phone by an asylum officer who's not an attorney. I don't even know if they have to have gone to any college at all, but they are trained in the basics of asylum law. Asylum law being one of the most complex laws in the U.S. and also has huge international implications. Okay, so they're trained in the basics, and they're put on the phone with someone and told to ask a certain number of questions, and at the end they make a conclusion whether this person has a generally 9% chance of being able to prove their case if they were allowed to go on into court. The asylum officer is essentially a gatekeeper, okay, to the judge, so we don't have immigration judges completely flooded. That's how Congress created this system. If they are not found to be credible, their only option is then to ask an immigration judge to review that finding, okay? And then that's when usually lawyers are called, because they're going to go in front of a judge. What we have encouraged clients to do is to hire us from the outset. Hire us so that we can be on the call with the asylum officer. Hire us so that we can be the person who submits evidence in support of your case. We email that to the asylum officer, because there's no way that the detainee, the individual who's sitting in a detention center in Arizona or in Florida or in remote areas of Louisiana or Texas, they're not going to be able to get evidence to an asylum officer in Louisiana, in New Orleans. They're not going to be able to get it to an asylum officer in San Francisco, in Arlington, in Los Angeles, or Houston. Instead, they're going to be basing everything off of their own word, their explanation of what's happened to them and what is going to happen to them. And what we do is we've provided, this is specific to our Sikh Indian clients who are here seeking asylum, we've provided expert testimony and a resume for the expert explaining why this person cannot internally relocate in India and why they are going to be tracked and persecuted by the Indian government. Okay, so what's been happening for us is we submit this evidence to the asylum office, and instead of considering any of it, the asylum office denies our client the opportunity to even go before a judge to seek asylum. This is just to even have a hearing. And now we've been going before the judges, and the judges are saying the asylum office cannot do that. The asylum office has to abide by the basics of due process, which is to consider evidence in making decisions. So there for a while, all of us were really demoralized here in Arizona, because it seemed like there was no way to be able to help our clients have the constitutionally promised guarantee of a full and fair hearing. And in the past 24 hours, I've gotten 4 different cases where the immigration judge has said, not on my watch, and we have said, not on our watch. The asylum office must consider all the evidence, and you know what? Now these clients are going to get a full asylum hearing in front of a real judge, not some trained in asylum officer, and they're also going to be eligible for bond. So now, instead of being detained in a prison, they're going to be able to be out with their family, be able to get on with healing from the past persecution that they fled and left their families in India or other countries from. And it's not just India where we're winning these cases. We have a young man from Ecuador who he fled, and the asylum office made egregious due process violations, and those were corrected by the immigration court yesterday and today. So we are, if you are in Arizona or just in general an immigration practitioner who wants more help on how to do this, reach out to my office. I'm happy as always to share information and guidance on what we have found is clearly working and is, at the end of the day, we are all supposed to be, as lawyers and as judges and as any officer of the court, we are supposed to be on the same team. And that team is the team that defends the United States Constitution and the values that thousands upon millions of people have died defending and protecting. And so we take that really seriously at my firm. And if you have any questions, we're New Frontier Immigration Law, and my phone number is 623-742-5400. I'm Hillary Walsh. I'm an immigration attorney, I'm a teacher, I'm an advocate, and I'm passionate about protecting the U.S. Constitution, because there ain't nothing like it.